Moving from there, I'm going to be touching on some of the Microsoft stuff real quick. Let me reset my timer. I got 15. So obviously the hot topics, Win 10 dying, this leads to the poll question there, end of life is 2025. So you either got to get started, if you're not already started, you got to get something started, right? So, or maybe you're going straight to Windows 12. But either way, Windows 10 is on its way out. We're on that last part of the runway there, or what have you. 22H2, as you know, was the last. Is picking up that pace, right? That's a big one for us as a partner and helping our customers to Windows 11 and making that jump now, right? A year ago, it was kind of, it wasn't much. We'd always ask, you want to start doing something with Windows 11? It's like, well, now it's picking up quick. It's considered the modern workspace. So, Windows 10 probably was when it came out, but nowadays, when we're talking about the modern workspace, the modern work desk, the modern desktop, with all this, it's Windows 11. The actual definition from Microsoft, it's Windows 11. So anything you're doing here for the modern side of things is going to be Windows 11. It's kind of funny. 23H2 started on Halloween. I just noticed when I was getting ready for this, it was exactly on the 31st. Some people have had some difficulties with Windows 11. Part of that is the Apex monster that I mentioned here. There's a lot of additional bloat and from an optimization standpoint in Windows 11 that is a big gotcha when you move from Windows 10 to where it's. I've done some from like a CPM, a file-based personalization side of things. It's not as containers are a lot easier for Windows 11 just because of the Apex, the differences in all the bloat and the additional apps and things coming down with Windows 11. So that this is just one of the, like on my laptop, this is just one of the, like you could scroll up way and see just a ton more, right? The amount of Apex packages coming down to Windows 11 is ridiculous from an optimization standpoint. So, just something that we're definitely helping our customers out with, and we're trying to, optimize these in a VDI side of things and make sure, the logins are decent. Some of the bigger ones are taken out, et cetera, et cetera. But from a usability standpoint, there's a lot of nice ones, but there's a lot of ones that just don't need anymore. So, and there's just more of this nastiness in Windows 11 than there was in Windows 10, right? So passwordless, that's becoming more and more of the conversation. We had a webinar last year. We talked and demonstrated passwordless with Citrix. That auth experience, that's the modern auth experience. That's becoming more and more of an ask, with YubiKey, for example. That's just one of the many things. You got the ability to use your phone for that. Windows Hello. This is becoming a security play now with passwordless, and you can use it with Citrix, you can use it with these other solutions, Entra ID, Azure Auth, good to go. That's becoming more of a thing, and Windows 11 has a little bit more robust policy control and things like that around the passwordless auth experience that Windows 10 does not have. Not really Windows 11 specific, but Entra ID join, hybrid join, they're always part of the conversation with this experience. As the poll just showed, hybrid join specifically is coming up pretty much in all conversations. Now, still a lot of traditional AD join on the physical endpoint side, of course, but hybrid joins is definitely going to be a thing, and is a thing right now. And so, not as much on that sprinkle a little bit of the Entra ID native join, but hybrid join's the thing right now. We've just had a few here and there that they're so cloud native that we can do Entra ID only, but more so it seems to be the hybrid join for us, and that's Windows 11 moving to that whole modern workplace, modern workspace, and all that hybrid join. It makes for a nice combo. And then, of course, Windows 11 Enterprise multi-session in Azure. Multi-session is still very hot. It just keeps picking up pace. That's the entitlement that they give you with those packages. Those marketplace images are constantly being updated. FS Logic's included now in the marketplace images, which I don't know if I like exactly with that staying updated, but they've had their difficulties there. But Windows 11 Enterprise Multi-Session is a big one. If you haven't yet heard of multi-session and you're doing something in Azure, that's part of your M365. Most of the M365 entitlements, not all, but just something to keep your eye on and possibly get rid of some of the server OS situation with RDS licenses and whatnot. Obviously, Teams 2.x, so 2.1 now, and OneDrive. These are some catalysts of change for sure on this side. Single window mode, for example, was retired for the VDI optimized teams here in January, right? So that was kind of the first domino to fall, right? The next big one that everybody's looking at is classic teams, right? That end of life here very soon. You got to get ramped up. So this is a big one for us in this space. It's a completely new design, no more Electron. It's now this WebView 2. The second domino is kind of March 31st. It just passed, where the native client defaulted to new teams, not the VDI stuff. So any of you that were, had that on the physical endpoints, that's where the policy in there doesn't allow you to control it anymore. And basically it defaulted to the new teams for those clients. And now June 30th is a big one for us on the VDI side. That's the one that everybody's working towards right now, where new teams will be enforced. When that goes end of availability for defense for classic teams, new teams will be enforced across all. It doesn't matter whatever you're using. If you're doing teams for UCC, that's going to be enforced. So this here kind of shows it a little bit better for what I was speaking to. As you can see, the classic teams, the thing to look for is this classic teams end of availability right here. Up in here is the same for all of them, but March 31st was the kind of the cutoff date for. See if I can get my laser pen. Right up here for the native clients versus where we're looking here, right? So this is it's coming quick in the summer for us. So it's definitely something that's a hot topic right now, to where we even have a jump start on that. We'll talk about that more. FS Logic's upgrades, they keeping up with their own tech. They had some problems keeping up with this whole Teams thing on their side. So as we had to wait for a hot fix to come out with FS Logic to even work with that stuff when new teams started rolling out in tech preview. And now they're still having the issues with 2019. There's just been some problems on that side with them trying to keep up with their own tech. What I mean by that is, server OS, FS Logics, with Teams is theirs, obviously, on the Microsoft side. So, that's been tricky, to say the least, and has led to us doing quite a bit of more with more development on the Citrix profile management side, which Shane will mention. But that whole container side of things and the capabilities there, it's been a shift to think, maybe FS Logics isn't the only play in town, which it's not anymore. So the WebRTC, if you don't know, the VDI 1.0 optimization is what it uses today for backwards compatibility. Teams 2.1 is backwards compatible with that. But the new one, there's going to be a new media engine offload that doesn't depend on this. It's going to be like the VDI 2.0 or whatnot, whatever they want to call it, but that's coming. And so Teams 2.1 will be compatible with that. And then OneDrive, of course, big shift. Like, how do I get away from legacy folder redirection? So we're helping our customers move away from that when they move to Windows 11, right? Let's get away from the legacy stuff that then goes, synchronous logon times and making it be synchronous to OneDrive, and taking advantage of those, usually what ends up being a minimum 1 terabyte storage entitlement there. So our customers are taking advantage of that, and it's definitely something I would recommend as a discussion point when you're moving to Windows 11. Entra ID and SSO, if you haven't heard of this, Entra ID is the new name, obviously, for Azure Active Directory, but more importantly, there's Entra ID SSO now, which with these updates here, that will allow us to do a single sign-on without, like on the Citrix side, if you're familiar with FAS and the PKI requirements and all that, to translate between OpenID Connect and SAML and all those back to AD. Basically, this gives an SSO into certain certain OSs, right? So it's GA for AVD, but it's tech preview for Citrix right now, even on the newest LTSR 2402. But Entra ID SSO is basically Win 10, Win 11, Server 2022 does not include the down level server OS operating systems. But again, it gets away from FAS and the PRT being missing on that side. That one was a big one when you're using FAS with these. The PRT doesn't come down for that token that you get for like compliance and conditional access and things like that. So you have to plan on that when you're using FAS. It's been, it's always tricky. So that PRT isn't there with FAS, so it gets us around that. It's basically, like I said, a promising feature to streamline things and get away from the complexities there, right? And then the conditional access, Entra ID just in general, is all the rage these days. Of course, if you already have it, you got free, you got P1, P2 governance. There's different levels, different plans for Entra ID, conditional access, and just tons of capabilities there, depending on which one you're using. But these would obviously can be leveraged for any and all the players on the lineup card as the IDP. So, we work with all the identity vendors across the board: Cisco, Duo, Okta, Ping. Well, Ping was bought, but all of these, right? So, but Entra ID, of course, is probably the number one that comes up because you're entitled to it to some degree with the free plan for almost all of our customers, right? So, it's just, you'll see that the check marks there. There's not everything in that one, of course, and then you step up for things like conditional access, conditional access evaluation. The government's plan even has more, but passwordless is in all plans, right? So some of the passwordless stuff I was talking about, that's in all plans. And then, yeah, so with that, I would say the Entra umbrella is all encompassing. So when you hear Entra, it's not just Entra ID with that. So that umbrella is very big. It's not just ID, which was basically the Azure Active Directory part of it, but they rebranded all this into Entra and this umbrella because now they have this permissions management. They got workload ID, they got verified ID, they got it covers a lot of different things for identity overall, which is why they rebranded it. So under that umbrella, there's a lot. So Entra ID is just one piece of it, which plays into our EUC space big time. So, and then with that, the hybrid join and plus Intune, is Intune the downfall of group policies? Not really, not so fast there. There's certain things you can do, certain things you can't. It's the modernized management approach, right? So there's a lot you can do with it, but it's not as robust as some of the ADMXs that you still might need in your environment. So you kind of have to play that game of, can I use it for some things, but not everything? You can use their group policy analytics tool to take a look at that, import. Some things just aren't going to be compatible or the same kind of settings that you can set there, right? So AVD plus Intune. What's interesting here is you got the personal, obviously, usually personal across the board for anything with Intune. Otherwise, you get ghosted session IDs up there, and it's just not technically supported. But they have the pooled multi-session for Entra ID and hybrid join for AVD, probably because it's not technically non-persistent in AVD like the Citrix world. So they have that capability there. Citrix is just persistent only, single session, Entra ID, hybrid join. So Citrix has to be persistent, and it's single session only right now. So device-based, user-based, much different. Enrollment's much different there. That's something to keep an eye on. User-based, it's when you log in, it tries to do the enrollment registration. It's not really the best approach, in my opinion, there for our VDI, EUC. It's device-based is what you're going to be looking at. And then really it's Intune's everywhere, right? It's required for the management of W365, for the enterprise side of things for that. And it's a beast, right? The Intune suite has a lot, as you can see up here. There's a lot in the suite, right? So we're just getting started really in our Intune journey because it reaches into everything that we're talking about. And then one of those kind of interesting, Cloud PKI is in the Intune suite now. So PKI is a PaaS service, but we haven't really played with this too much, but it's very interesting to me because you can, it's mainly for, I think, for Intune certificates. A lot of the stuff is certificates for Intune. You can hook it into your own, but it's the first PaaS service offering. I think this was in February of 2024 for that. But Intune is becoming quite the beast. AVD with Nerdio Manager, NME, that's a big one for us, making use of those entitlements that I talked about earlier. Really, Microsoft, they're going to pitch W365 more because it's better for them. It's fixed costs. I don't care if it's on or off, you pay the same. And really just know that the heart of AVD is RDP. It's just constant feature catch up with HDX, DAS. However, a few features came supported first on their side, but HDX is going to have a lot more. And I just put a few notes in here, like Azure Front Door. They have, ITM is on the Citrix side for their POPs. UDP, TCP fallback. Well, we have that on the Citrix side, right? But they finally got that, or the reverse TCP, but UDP for short path. They got it for managed and public networks for stun and turn, and then the security, which app protection on the Citrix side, screen capture and watermarking, the clipboard transfer redirection, that type of content, all that's fairly new on their side. It's kind of a catch up, right, to what we know on the Citrix side. And then the Windows app client, if you haven't seen that, Tech Preview Ignite, they showed it. It's pretty cool. I got it. But it's like checking into AVD or W365 or anything. It's one app to rule them all for that. And this just shows this eye chart is basically just, there's a lot that goes into AVD, right? You got to build a whole landing zone. You gotta think through all this. You got your control plane, you got your different VNets you got to carve off. So, there's basically you manage the host, the user identities, everything else is managed by the service, but there's a lot that goes into AVD, right? So it's a little different from the W365. This is a big one for certain plays, but we got the primary play for business for us is the enterprise. You got the business side for the SMB. Intune managed, again, fixed pricing, easy to consume, just outside of the networking costs is the only thing that's not part of the pricing. They have a development for an offline capability that's coming, really cool. Frontline's available now. That's fairly new, where you got a single license for 3 cloud PCs, kind of the concurrency model, which we're going to mention later, is kind of gone on the Citrix side. It's great for shift workers, follow the sun, what have you. Again, that Windows app preview is part of that, where you turn on the preview toggle and you can start using this with what you got. So a little bit simpler on the infrastructure side. As you can see here, this is kind of all in their bubble, but you can with the enterprise, not the business one, but you can connect into your own stuff with W365 Enterprise to make it more enterprise worthy, connecting into your own stuff there, your own VNets. Things like that. So a lot simplifies here because all these cloud PCs are in their bubble for the service, whereas AVD, we have to go get landing zones for those and think about all that, right?